Well, a first for the European Tour today as we see the first Portuguese player to play on the circuit here in Copenhagen in Denmark. Only the second time we've been here on the Euro Tour, and this is the first time we'll see a man from Portugal in action. It's Jose de Sousa, and I tell you what, this lad is a serious player. We saw him at the World Championship, and he didn't really give as good account of himself as he would have hoped. He took on Michael Barnard in a game that lasted forever. We played pretty much the full complement of legs in that first round encounter. There were moments of brilliance. Jose de Sousa very nearly produced a perfect leg in that game. But there was a lot of mediocre stuff. Now, this year on the tour, he really has grown and grown. He's finally qualified for a European Tour event, but he is very, very close on a couple of occasions of going on and winning a Pro Tour title. He comes into this off the back of a semi-final run. Jose de Sousa went and made the semi-finals in the most recent Players' Championship event and beat S.Taylor along the way, averaging 102.6 in the process. Earlier in the day, he'd averaged 106 nearly in seeing off Gert Nenches. This man is getting better and better, and in the same way that we saw Cristo Reyes establish himself as a force from a lesser-known darting nation of Spain, Jose de Sousa might be doing the same. Paul Nicholson in the commentary box as Jose takes on S.Taylor.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch Jose play it. He's a lovely guy. He's a very, very handy dart player, like you've mentioned. And I'm excited because it's another country, isn't it, that we can potentially look to maybe find some more talent. Portugal is an untapped resource maybe when it comes to European darts, and it's up to Mr. de Sousa to potentially put together a Portuguese team for next year's World Cup.
Well, maybe. S.Taylor is a very difficult player to predict. He is a guy himself who has made Pro Tour finals. He's gone on runs in Pro Tour events. And he does have this ability to smash in 180s. But if it's not one of those days where it's all going brilliantly for him, it can be pretty average.
It's very much like his dart shirt, really, isn't it? It could be all in the light or all in the dark.
Yes, yeah. He is a player that blows hot and cold, but de Sousa has been regularly putting in impressive displays. He does have some counting issues, Jose de Sousa. He will go strange ways and do strange things that you can't quite explain.
That'll do. Single 18. Perfectly done. So he sidestepped that landmine.
Radar just a little bit off for S.Taylor at the minute. De Sousa for a first leg on the Euro circuit. That's no help. That is exactly where it needs to be. A 17 darter is good enough for the first ever leg on the European Tour, won by a Portuguese player.
Yeah, very good. And I love, there's something on his dart shirt. And you know how sometimes people from the United Kingdom will have the odd joke about people from, say, Spain or Portugal. But on the left side of his shirt, as we look at it, it just says L2020. I wonder what that says. Yeah, I'm really excited to watch him because I remember that game at the World Championships, and I was backstage waiting to play.
Yeah, of course you were, yeah.
It just felt like it was never going to end.
Yeah. It was actually, I mean, look, it wasn't everybody's cup of tea because obviously it was a... Oh, what's happened here? Well, he wants the board twisting, it would appear.
I think when he was retrieving a dart, he may have dislodged it a little bit and actually turned it around. So it's actually good of de Sousa just to bring that up and make sure that everybody's happy with it being straight. It's all been happening in the last 20 minutes. We had a fly on the board in the last game.
He's done pretty well there because those boards are pretty firmly wedged on there with the chocks underneath, aren't they? To retrieve your darts and move it, you've got to really wrench them out.
59.
Maybe he's an Avenger.
I mean, maybe. I'm not... Be an odd film.
Jose de Sousa, the darting Avenger.
Right. If you look at it, film character, he looks more like the dad from American Pie.
To be fair, he's very much like the Deadpool movies. He's trying to bring back the flap top.
That's it, yeah.
What's he called? Is that Colossus?
84.
Yeah, good shout.
Yes, so you require 130.
Now then. Beautiful dart, that. Double 5.
125. Scott, you require 160.
There's a little bit of a warning for Scott Taylor. Hang about. Oh, yeah. And he scares it as well. Really good efforts from both players.
5.
And de Sousa's got the trickier one of the two.
Yeah, much nicer lead for Scott Taylor, but de Sousa gets the first poke. That's awkward. Oh, not too awkward, though. Completely unflappable, Jose de Sousa. We've seen him on the Pro Tour so far this year. Even when he's made a mistake, he's made a counting error, or he's done something odd, it doesn't seem to perturb him at all. He just goes on his merry way.
Well, very merry indeed. I do admire a guy who likes to bring beige back into dart shirts. I mean, that takes a very brave man to do that, considering the things that Jockey Wilson used to wear, and you know, Eric and John Lowe, they were the beige days.
Yeah,
that is beige, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of like that. Do you remember that old? It was. Oh, hello. Oh, 5 perfect darts. I thought Jose de Sousa was going to give us another threat of a 9-darter like he did at the Worlds. There was an old New Zealand cricket team shirt that was ridiculed at the time for being basically brown, and then it kind of came back into fashion in an ironic way, and all the Kiwi fans started wearing it. And that's that colour, basically.
Yeah, I know that what you're talking about.
Look at this for a leg of darts. Fabulous.
Forget about the colours. It's all about how brilliant he's been in this leg, and Scott hasn't played poorly, but this is just about as good as you will find.
Wow, 10-dart leg, double 18 required for Jose de Sousa. And the Portuguese is rampant at the minute. That 10-darter puts him 3-0 up, and he is averaging way, way, way above a ton. Scott Taylor has no answer for this at the minute. The winner of this will face Darren Webster, who's the 15th seed here this weekend. Jose de Sousa smashed up Scott Taylor in their clash on the Pro Tour just a matter of weeks ago. He averaged 102.6 to Taylor's 96.7. It was a 6-1 win. A convincing 6-1 win. And that, as I say, that's after all through that day, 97 average, 95, 105.5, 94.5. Average 102 against Scott Taylor. And then only lost out to the eventual winner, Harry Ward, Big H, the talented young man from Derbyshire. And even then he averaged 93.5, Jose de Sousa. It really did look like he might be the person to go on and win the title that day. But this is really exciting, watching Jose de Sousa, a player from Portugal. We've never seen anybody from Portugal have a big impact in PDC darts. He might be the person to put PDC darts on the map in his home country. And we've seen what the Spanish lads have been doing over the last few years. Cristo, Tony Alcinas.
Was it Justicia who we'll see in the next game?
Yeah, exactly.
And they all started in soft tip darts and they migrated over to steel tip. See, they all come to steel tip eventually.
Well, he's had a 14, so he could still do this. And the soft tip players love a bullseye, and they might just go for it. Does he go for it?
Yep.
Of course he's going to go for it.
Yeah, it's the soft tip way, isn't it? If there's a shot, go for it. It doesn't matter where your opponent is.
81.
He's in a good position here.
Yes, so you require 33.
As long as he can get the big single, and he can choose which one he wants. Might have a 17 on his mind for double 8. That was a bit hooky. That was a bit Jockey Wilson, that one, and that one is a bit brilliant. 4-0 to Portugal. And at which point do we call
Fifth
him
leg,
the
USA
Cristiano Ronaldo of darts?
Game on.
I'll tell you what, this is a dominant display from Jose de Sousa, who is averaging right now 105.5. This is significantly higher than even the UK Open champion Nathan Aspinall's performance earlier on this afternoon, a man in the top 16 in the world rankings. I know that tend... Oh, well, that doesn't help, does it? When it never rains, it pours, Scott. Raise of the eyebrows acknowledges that. The 10 darter obviously helps your average when you've only played 4 legs, but it's been consistent stuff from Jose.
Well, when you throw 40 darts for 3 legs, that is world class no matter where you go, whether it's Europe, Asia, America, South or North.
135.
That is just phenomenal darting. And this has been coming for a while, I think. I remember watching him a few years ago, and I thought something about his throw, it looks very solid. He's just got better and better, and maybe he's one of those players. He's not going to be one of these young upstarts like Ted Everts. He's going to find his game a little later in his career, and why not? That happened to Gary Anderson, it happened to Peter Wright.
Well, and it's not as if Jose, yes, he had played WDF stuff. He, go back to 2011, he played the World Cup and made it the last 64 there. He actually did appear at Ali Pali the following year, 2012, only as a preliminary round player. So he's been playing darts, but he's not exactly been smashing up WDF tournaments all over the place and playing the full circuit. He's not like a Mensur Suljovic kind of character who was an established player in darts of various formats and then came to the PDC, played week in, week out and became one of the world's best.
100.
This is a guy who's been playing a bit but not really taking it that seriously, seemingly.
There's something to be said for dart players who don't take it too seriously. They don't think about it too much.
Here's how you require 78.
You'll be thinking about a 5-0 lead right now if you can get this 78. Single for tops. Just double checking. That'll do. Plenty of room over the top.
58.
Not enough juice on that
Scott, you require 76.
Well, this is an opportunity. It's one he's got to take, S.Taylor.
Went for the treble because he couldn't see the tops, and that's really intelligent from S.Taylor. Just about to see if he gets the single. That dart is going to be in the way in the 20. But I think the gamble on the treble there was the right thing to do.
Game on.
Well, S.Taylor does have this ability to just ignite, and we've seen him get his first dart where he wants it and then start spraying them about a bit. But if he can just sync things up, that very explosive, violent throwing action he's got, it does lend itself to, sometimes spraying the darts about. Whereas Jose, it's just a lot more measured. See that massive, his whole body moves when that arm lets go.
How did he do that? I swear that came out of the board, went back in it.
60.
Well, Ross Berry was having a good old look at it. I'm not quite sure what the issue was. Has he managed to jam it under a wire or something?
I'm pretty sure that came out of the board because it deflected, then it's hit the flight and gone back in. That may have been something that we've never seen before. Very much like those silly bounce outs that we saw from James Wilson and Darryl Gurney a couple of seasons ago. Remember
77.
Those?
James Wilson, by the way, that victory earlier on for Kyle Anderson has really harmed his chances, not just of some of the big TV tournaments, but the World Championship.
58.
So, work to do for the biscuit.
Yeah, at what point in the season do people start talking realistically about my spot in the world? I think you shouldn't even talk about it until September when the final push really begins. But at the minute, it's all about the world match play, isn't it? And maybe someone's going to have a big push over the next 3 weeks.
Well, when did you start thinking about it?
First day of the season.
64.
Have a good day here and let's get on that train.
For minute 1. Can still be done. And it is done. 105 checkout on double 19. Scott Taylor
Seventh
makes it
leg,
back-to-back
Jose
legs,
throw
and
first.
Jose de Sousa stranded on 144. It's not panic stations yet for the Portuguese.
Yeah, not at all, but you've got to admire the
97.
steeliness of Scott Taylor. He's probably thinking to himself, as much as he was dominated in the first 4 legs, he's got the ability to do that to Jose.
39.
And look, there may be players out there may be players on the circuit right now who would think they've been drawn against Jose de Sousa. They've never played him before. This is only his first year on the tour. And they'd be thinking, flipping it, 4-0 up, averaging 105. That's not going to continue. Scott Taylor knows it can, because it happened to him not very long ago. He knows he's got to hit form here against Jose, because he might not let up. That second 180 from Jose has pushed his average again up above the ton.
Yeah, well said, Dan, because there's maybe a lot of dart fans out there who maybe don't watch the stats online and they don't know anything about Jose de Sousa. Well, the thing is, he is the epitome of the grey area. He's not black and white, this guy. He has been plodding along very nicely, and we could pigeonhole both of these guys as journeymen, maybe, and they're just waiting to do something special.
Well, I mean, Scott Taylor has looked like he's got the talent, but it's just the consistency that's eluded him, whereas Jose de Sousa here has gone treble 20 for double 2. And I told you he'd do weird things. I told you. You're never quite sure where he's going to go.
That was very soft tip, Dan. That's the kind of thing soft tippers do. And I'll tell you what, I know he's going to be watching. Wayne Mardle pick the bones out of that one.
Well,
have you ever seen the like?
It was a good lie, and he used it.
Hey, I was saying earlier on that when Nathan Aspinall was on 94 and he hit a big 18, it was a lovely guide for treble 18. He should have stuck there for double 11. So, you know what, I'm going to stick by it. Hey, if it works, you look like a genius.
Yeah, well, it certainly worked for him there, and Jose de Sousa in what was a very important leg of darts, that. Because if he didn't hold his throw and Scott Taylor had made it 3 on the spin to pull it back to 4-3, then you might be thinking that the man from
60.
Bolton was the one in charge. But as things stand, he's got to win 4 on the spin here against a man averaging 102, and that's going to be very, very tough.
140.
You're right about Scott Taylor. When he gets it right, he gets that rhythm right. It almost feels like he isn't going to miss. It's so good when he gets that little pause going when he's bringing the dart back when it's not rushed.
136.
He absolutely thunders his darts into the board and into each other. That's the thing. If he gets that
60.
first dart right and his throw is consistent enough, it piles in 180s at a ridiculous rate.
Another one puts pressure on.
100.
He's going to have to settle for the
Scott,
ton.
you requires 76.
And this is the start of the comeback, Scott. You need this 76. And then you only need 3 more. Pull for the cheeks. Tells you that he's not happy with that first start. And
Yes,
he's absolutely right. It wasn't his best.
41.
So de Sousa's got this for the match. Well, the bad news is Jose can't lead double 2 from 141.
57.
Well, Scott Taylor's been decent on the doubles.
40.
He's 2 out of 3.
Game
Made
shot
that 3 out of 4. But unfortunately for Scott Taylor, a man who is known for the number of 180s he's hit, he hasn't hit a single one of them. Jose de Sousa has outscored him heavily throughout this game. And de Sousa has got 2 chances to hold his throw and win this match. The first coming right now.
100.
And again, he's picked up the 60. He does have that. It's very Dave Chisnell-like, isn't it? Sometimes there's a dart where it's a bit wafty, a bit jerky.
140.
I like that, wafty.
Yeah, I mean, the arm goes off somewhere. A bit sort of the Martin Adams waft after he throws a dart, except that Martin Adams just doesn't jerk his darts around all over the place.
It's not quite the Cameron Menzies periscope.
Nobody does it quite like Mad Cammy. Here we go, clatter into them.
140.
He's seen trying to, and he's frustrated that he couldn't.
You see, he was trying to rescue the dart because he let go of it late. But you can see that there's a lot of really good follow-throughs on darts for Jose. But like you say, there's that little bit of a tentative nature about some of them, and he doesn't know where the hand's going. You've got to try and make every follow-through the same, and that's what you do get with Scott. he does throw a very fast, violent dart, like you mentioned.
And that's why you get those darts there, isn't it? They're so high on the board because if you get your release slightly wrong, they can be so high and so low. But what a visit this is from Sousa de Sousa. 180 number 3, leaves him on tops for the match, and S.Taylor is having all kinds of pressure applied to him, as he has had all the way through this game.
38.
It's game, set, and possibly the match to Portugal. And first appearance on the Euro Tour for a Kiwi in the last game, he got through. First appearance on the Euro Tour for a Portuguese player, and he is on double 5.
30.
He's not through just yet.
83.
3 match darts missed. S.Taylor S.Taylor has to watch Sousa walk the wrong way and then correct himself.
I'll
tell you what every dart player in the world would have said as soon as Jose went the wrong way. They would have said tactics.
They may have worked. But tactics or no, the Portuguese has averaged around about 100 here. It's falling because he keeps missing match darts, but he does not miss that one. And it is a winning debut for the first ever Portuguese darts player to grace the European Tour. He's been brilliant on the Pro Tour at times this year, Sousa de Sousa. He was excellent here in Denmark, and he'll take on Darren Webster, the number 15 seed, looking to make this a dream debut on the European circuit.
Jose, tell us quickly. You looked very comfortable up there, and then all of a sudden it got a bit too tight for your liking, I reckon.
Yeah, well, he's a great player, no? And I just try to make pressure.
Webster, if you can play like this again?
Well, I think I can make better than this. Maybe the nervous in the moment. I don't know. I know I go fight. I always fight.
That sounds like a promise. We say congratulations and thank you to Jose de Sousa. The next match coming up is Jose Justicia against Ryan Joyce.